Chosen one, stop right here. Before another second slips through your fingers, feel this moment breathing you in. This isn't a coincidence. This isn't an algorithm. This is a summons. Out of billions of voices, this one crossed your path because heaven leaned in and whispered your name. You didn't stumble into this message. It found you precisely when the weight became heavier than words and the silence grew louder than answers. You've been carrying questions you never say out loud, wondering why the effort hasn't matched the outcome, why the doors stayed shut even when your faith stayed open. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for a moment, hit subscribe, and comment amen if your spirit is already responding, because this message is about to speak directly to you. This is not a click, it's a signal, a quiet agreement between you and what's been watching over you all along. Chosen one, I see the way you've survived seasons that should have broken you, how you learned to stretch what was never enough, how you smiled while the pressure tightened behind your ribs. Money became the battlefield, but it was never the true war. The real fight was unseen. Faith versus fatigue, purpose versus delay, promise versus perception. You were investigated by the fire, examined by the dark, and refined where no one applauded. There were nights you asked heaven if you were forgotten, moments you felt spiritually disoriented, standing between who you were and who you were called to become. But hear this now. The confusion was camouflage. The delay was disguise. You were hidden not because you were weak, but because what's coming required precision timing. Light does not rush. It arrives exactly when shadow can no longer dominate. This wasn't punishment. It was preparation. And preparation always has an expiration date. Something is aligning as you listen. A seal is breaking. A countdown you couldn't see is nearly complete. Chosen one, the struggle was never meant to be permanent. It was proof you were being positioned. Stay right here. Don't scroll. Don't doubt. Because the next truth about to be revealed is the one that changes everything. Chosen one, take a breath and settle into this moment. Because the very fact that you are here right now is already speaking. This message did not arrive by accident, timing, glitch, or background noise in your day. There is a spiritual intelligence to moments like this. When a season is preparing to close, awareness always arrives first. Revelation precedes release. Insight comes before change. And if you truly were not ready for what's next, your spirit would not have recognized this message as significant. Think about it for a moment. How many videos exist? How many voices compete for attention? Yet something in you paused here. Something leaned in. That's because transition always whispers before it announces itself. When the soil is almost ready for harvest, the ground begins to shift beneath the surface long before anything is visible above it. Have you felt that inner restlessness lately? That quiet knowing that this can't be all there is? That's not frustration. That's preparation activating. You see, chosen one, awareness is a gate. Not everyone reaches it. Many remain stuck in cycles because they never question them. But you've been reflecting. You've been noticing patterns. You've been asking deeper questions about money, survival, purpose, and why it has felt like you were constantly pushing against resistance. That's because the old financial season was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to teach you endurance, discernment, and discipline. And now the lesson is completing itself. There is a spiritual law at work here. When the lesson integrates, the environment must change. When your inner posture shifts, the outer conditions eventually follow. That's why this message is reaching you now and not last year, not 5 years ago, not during your most chaotic moments. Back then, you were surviving. Now you're becoming aware. Can you feel the difference? Survival screams, awareness listens. Ask yourself honestly, are you the same person who struggled before? Or have you grown quieter, wiser, more grounded? Have you learned how to stretch, prioritize, wait, and trust even when the numbers didn't make sense? Those weren't delays. Those were trainings. And training always ends with assignment. Financial shifts don't arrive when you demand them. They arrive when you can steward them. This message is confirmation that a turning point is forming. Not necessarily overnight, not magically falling from the sky, but structurally, spiritually, strategically. The old financial identity, the one rooted in lack, panic, and constant pressure, is losing its authority. A new awareness is stepping in, one that sees money as energy, responsibility, and alignment rather than fear. And that shift begins exactly like this, with recognition. So let me ask you, what if this moment is the signal you've been waiting for? What if your struggle has already done its job? What if the reason you're hearing this now is because your spirit is finally ready to move from endurance into expansion? Stay present. Let this settle. Because when awareness arrives, change is already on its way. Chosen one, let your shoulders soften as you listen to this, because something important needs to be spoken gently, but clearly. You have been in survival mode for a long time, longer than most people will ever realize. You learned how to stretch what wasn't enough, how to calculate every decision twice, how to stay alert even while exhausted. Survival became a reflex, not a choice. And while it kept you alive, it was never meant to be your permanent address. Survival mode teaches you how to endure, but it quietly drains your nervous system, your creativity, and your ability to dream freely. You were constantly managing instead of building, reacting instead of planning, protecting instead of expanding. Think about how much mental energy has been consumed just trying to make it through. How many nights your mind refused to rest because it was busy solving problems that never seemed to fully resolve. That wasn't weakness, that was adaptation. But adaptation has a season, and that season is now closing. Here is the truth many don't realize. Survival is sacred, but it is not the destination. It is the womb, not the world. It shapes resilience, discernment, and humility, but it also creates tightness if it lasts too long. You were not created just to hold the line and brace for impact. You were created to stabilize, to stand on solid ground, to grow without constantly checking over your shoulder. Can you feel how tired your spirit has become from always being on guard? The reason this phase is ending is not because you suddenly did something wrong or right. It's because you've learned what you needed to learn. You now understand value. You know how to prioritize. You recognize waste. You've developed an internal compass that didn't exist before the pressure, and once those lessons are integrated, the environment must change. Spiritual growth always demands structural change. Otherwise, the soul suffocates. There is also something powerful happening within you that you may not have named yet. Your body and spirit are craving stability, not luxury or stability, a rhythm that doesn't revolve around crisis, a flow that allows you to think long-term again. That craving is not greed, it's alignment calling you forward. When survival ends, it doesn't mean struggle instantly disappears. It means struggle no longer defines you. Ask yourself this: what would your life feel like if you weren't constantly bracing? If your decisions came from clarity instead of fear? If money was a tool instead of a threat? That vision is not fantasy, it's memory. It's the future self calling backward, reminding you of what you were actually designed for. So breathe this in, chosen one. Survival did its job. It kept you alive, sharpened you, and prepared you. But now a different chapter is opening. One where you stabilize, build, and grow with intention. Stay here with this truth, because the next steps unfold differently when you finally step out of survival and into purpose. Chosen one, listen closely now, not with urgency, but with honesty. The reason money felt blocked in your life was never because you were incapable, unworthy, or doing everything wrong. You didn't fail. In fact, the struggle itself is proof that something deeper was taking place beneath the surface. When flow slows, it's often not a punishment. It's a pause designed to bring awareness to what could no longer move forward unchanged. Think of a river for a moment. When debris builds up beneath the waterline, the surface still looks calm, but the movement weakens. The river doesn't stop because it has lost power. It slows because something unseen needs to be cleared. In your life, that debris came in subtle forms. Fear learned from past scarcity, doubt shaped by disappointment, or misalignment between who you were becoming and the decisions you were still making. None of these made you wrong. They made you human. You were carrying old financial patterns that once protected you but eventually limited you. Fear kept you alert. Doubt made you cautious. Control gave you a sense of safety. But over time, those same patterns began narrowing the channel through which abundance could flow. Money responds to alignment, not force. And when your inner world starts changing faster than your habits, the outer flow often pauses until everything comes into coherence. Have you noticed how your values shifted before your circumstances did? There were moments when you felt like you were doing everything right, but nothing moved. That frustration was the signal, not to try harder, but to look deeper. Spiritual growth always asks for congruence. It asks whether your choices match your truth, whether your spending reflects your values, whether your work honors your energy. The block wasn't money rejecting you. It was life inviting you to realign. Here's the revelation many miss. Abundance doesn't enter chaos, it enters clarity. When fear runs the system, money hesitates. When doubt directs decisions, flow becomes inconsistent. But when alignment settles in, when your actions, beliefs, and self-worth begin moving in the same direction, resistance dissolves naturally. You don't have to chase flow. Flow recognizes readiness. Ask yourself gently, what beliefs about money were you still carrying that no longer fit who you are now? Where were you saying you wanted expansion, but still acting from protection? These questions aren't accusations. They are keys. And the fact that you can ask them now means the inner shift has already begun. This is why the blockage didn't break you. It refined you. It slowed you just enough to adjust your inner compass. And now, chosen one, as alignment takes root, movement returns. Not forced, not frantic, but steady, intentional, and sustainable. When the inside aligns, the outside follows. Always. Chosen one, this is the part of the journey that requires the deepest trust. The moment when nothing looks different on the surface, yet everything is shifting underneath. Right now, there are movements happening beyond your line of sight. Not loudly, not dramatically, but intentionally. Just because you can't see the change yet doesn't mean it isn't already in motion. In fact, the most meaningful transitions always begin in silence. Think about how creation itself works. Roots grow in darkness before anything breaks through the soil. Foundations are laid underground before a structure ever rises into view. In the same way, provision rarely announces itself in advance. It organizes quietly. It aligns people, conversations, and opportunities long before you recognize their significance. Have you noticed subtle delays, unexpected pauses, or sudden redirections lately? Those are not interruptions. They are adjustments. Right now, there are conversations you haven't heard yet taking place on your behalf. Doors being discussed before you ever knock. Solutions forming before you even realize you need them. This is how alignment operates. When your inner world begins to settle into readiness, the external world responds by rearranging itself. Not all at once, but piece by piece, detail by detail. And often it does so without your involvement, because forcing timing would disrupt the precision of what's unfolding. It can feel uncomfortable to trust a process you can't monitor. The mind wants evidence, the heart wants reassurance, but spiritual provision begins as order, not objects. It begins as positioning, not possession. That's why impatience often tempts you to interfere, to rush, to push, to control outcomes. Yet the very thing you're waiting for requires space to assemble. Have you ever wondered how many times you were protected simply because something wasn't ready yet? Behind the scenes, the old paths that drained you are quietly closing, even if they haven't disappeared completely yet. New paths are opening gently, without pressure, without force. You may feel less frantic lately, less desperate to fix everything immediately. That calm isn't resignation, it's synchronization. It's your nervous system sensing that it no longer needs to fight for every inch forward. Ask yourself this: what if the lack of visible progress is actually proof of divine coordination? What if what's being prepared needs privacy before it needs publicity? The unseen stage is not absence, it's incubation. and incubation always precedes birth. So stay present, chosen one. Stay grounded. The movement you can't see is the movement you'll soon feel. And when it becomes physical, it won't arrive as chaos or shock. It will arrive as relief, quiet, stable, and right on time. Chosen one, lean in and feel this moment with your full attention, because what you're about to hear isn't ordinary. What changes after today will not be gradual like a whisper in the wind. It will be profound, like the first light of dawn cutting through a long night. The first and most transformative shift is peace, not a fleeting relief or temporary distraction, but a deep, steady, unshakable peace that settles into your bones. This is the kind of peace that tells you, without words, that the struggle is no longer your master. It's a signal that the weight you've been carrying can finally rest. Have you been carrying tension so long that you forgot what ease felt like? That is about to change. Peace is the doorway. The moment it arrives, panic begins to dissolve. All the fear, all the anxious what-ifs, all the racing thoughts that have made you feel like survival was a never-ending marathon, they start to release their grip. You will notice it quietly at first, like a gentle exhale after holding your breath for too long, and then clarity takes its place. You begin to see the patterns that were invisible during the chaos. You start to recognize which paths lead to growth and which ones are distractions. You start to understand your financial rhythm, your personal energy, and your true priorities in ways that fear never allowed. Do you feel that subtle difference when worry no longer dominates your decision-making? Once peace and clarity arrive, a remarkable shift happens. Planning replaces panic. For so long, your mind has been stuck in reaction mode, firefighting every urgent demand, scrambling to cover the gaps, stretching every resource as if tomorrow could never arrive. But now planning becomes your natural response. You can strategize without stress, allocate energy without tension, and make choices without hesitation. When the heart and mind are aligned in calm, the actions you take are purposeful rather than forced. Stability doesn't arrive before this internal transformation. It only comes after your nervous system recognizes that it can finally relax and trust the process. Can you imagine what life feels like when every move is guided by purpose instead of pressure? This is why today is pivotal, chosen one. The internal shift is always the first step. External stability, consistent income, aligned opportunities, financial expansion, only follows once the foundation of peace is set. You are entering a season where your energy is no longer hijacked by scarcity, where your attention is no longer consumed by fear, and where your focus becomes a magnet for opportunities that are ready to meet you at your level. Every decision, every step, every encounter begins to carry the imprint of this new clarity. Ask yourself, how will your life change when panic no longer dictates your choices? How will your work, your relationships, and your finances respond when your heart is no longer reactive but deliberate? The answers are not theoretical. They are already forming in the invisible layers of your reality. What was once blocked begins to flow. What was once chaotic begins to order itself. And what was once uncertain now feels steady and dependable. So take a deep breath, chosen one, and anchor yourself here. Today marks the moment when inner peace becomes your standard, when clarity becomes your compass, and when planning replaces panic. Stability is no longer a distant dream. It's the natural outcome of what's already happening inside you. Stay present, because the life that follows this shift is not just possible, it has been waiting for you all along. Chosen one, now is the moment to anchor yourself fully, because the next chapter of your life doesn't arrive through force or frantic effort. What you must do to receive this shift is deceptively simple, yet profoundly transformative. It begins with calm, not the casual, surface-level calm that comes when life is easy, but the deep, unshakable calm that persists even in uncertainty. This calm is a signal to the universe that you are ready to receive, that your spirit is aligned, and that your nervous system is no longer feeding the resistance that previously slowed your progress. Have you noticed how much easier things flow when your mind is still, when panic no longer dictates your decisions? That is the energy you are now being called to maintain. Alongside calm, gratitude is your spiritual magnet. Gratitude shifts your perception from lack to abundance, from fear to faith, from resistance to recognition of what has already been working behind the scenes. Take a moment to feel the blessings you may have overlooked, the small provisions that sustained you through seasons of trial. Can you feel how life subtly supported you, even when it seemed cruel or unfair? That awareness opens doors. Gratitude is not a cliche or a polite habit. It is a signal to your soul and to the universe that you are ready to receive more. Not because you demanded it, but because you can steward it responsibly. But calm and gratitude alone are not enough. Aligned action is the bridge between spiritual readiness and tangible change. This is not frantic hustle or fear-driven activity. It is action that resonates with your new level of awareness. Action that honors your energy, your purpose, and your vision. Ask yourself, which steps feel effortless, intuitive, and meaningful? Which decisions carry the weight of clarity rather than panic? The universe responds to alignment, not desperation. When you take steps that feel like natural extensions of your truth, provision flows. Opportunities find you. Conversations materialize. Resources arrive, often in ways that feel miraculous but are simply the natural result of synchronicity. And here is a truth you must hold on to, chosen one. Once a lesson is completed, the struggle does not return. The seasons of stretching, scarcity, and survival were never permanent. They were preparatory. Their purpose was to refine your character, strengthen your faith, and deepen your discernment. Once the preparation has done its work, resistance fades, not because circumstances are perfect, but because your inner alignment has shifted to a point where fear no longer has the power to control your life. Are you ready to trust that what has been completed will remain complete? That the old patterns will no longer reclaim your energy? So stay calm, chosen one. Let your mind settle into clarity. Stay grateful, allowing your heart to recognize every hidden provision that has brought you this far. Take aligned action, moving in ways that honor both your purpose and your preparation. Do not rush out of fear. Do not force the timing. Stand firm in the certainty that the shift is already underway and that your readiness is the final catalyst. Everything that has been orchestrated for you, the unseen conversations, the hidden opportunities, the subtle arrangements of life, is responding to your alignment. Keep your focus inward, stay connected to your peace, and let the universe do the heavy lifting. The struggle is behind you, the expansion is here, and the life you have been preparing for is ready to meet you, chosen one, precisely because you are now ready to receive it.